help women, save lives, and peacefully end abortion where you live.
I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired.
You were serious about that?
Be inspired to change hearts and minds by joining over 1 million volunteers taking part in the global movement happening in your neighborhood.
She says, pray that I can get through this abortion. And I said, oh, no. So she went ahead and went into the abortion clinic. And she just came out. She told us, I'm not going to get the abortion. We just had a baby saved. We had a baby saved in Memphis today. Praise the Lord.
This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello and welcome to the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live. A day in the life of an abortion doctor. That is the topic of today. And it's a very special time at 40 Days for Life as we continue to announce our upcoming release of one of the greatest books on this topic you will ever read, written by Dr. Haywood Robinson and his late wife, Dr. Noreen Johnson. It will be released officially on June the 20th, right in time for the 1-year anniversary of the Dobbs anniversary, the overturning of Roe. So we are super excited about that. We are going to get into that. If you want to pre-order from 40 Days for Life and guarantee that you get a signed hardback copy, you can only get the signed copies from us. Go to 40daysforlifegear.com and or visit our store online. And you also see the link in this episode of the podcast. You can pre-order Haywood's book. You got to get it. It's unbelievable, and the title is The Scalpel and the Soul. And so we are going to talk about that book. We are going to talk about many aspects of what it's like as an abortion doctor day to day. And to do that, I am joined by my good friend, Dr. Haywood Robinson. Welcome.
It's great to be here, Sean, and really excited and some mixed emotions about the book. When you have to compile and pile up a lot of junk that's not good, it makes you look back and really see what the grace of God is about, because it's not a real clean story.
It's not, and I'm laughing because I've read it, and there's a lot in there. There's a lot that is unpredictable. You did a great job, by the way. It's very hard. You and Noreen, we started this project years ago. She went home early. She left you to finish the book, and you really put yourself out there. And there are things in the book I didn't know about you. It's entertaining. It's a fast read, but what you said is dead on accurate. You just shouldn't even be here. I mean, the mercy of God, the grace of God, it's such a beautiful story. It's a tough story. There's a lot of former abortion workers who have written a book. I think Unplanned is the best-selling pro-life book out there, and it should be. It's the best one, in my opinion, and I've written 4. But this is different than Unplanned. Unplanned has not that it's sweeter, but it's got an easier flow. Your book is like, where is this going to end up? You kind of forget who the author is because of your life, becoming a physician. Los Angeles is a great LA book, great California book. As I read it, I'm like, I can't believe I actually know Haywood. I mean, I can't believe he ended up in Texas. So anyways, we'll get into all that, but I know that this is a different season now because writing the book, very hard. You're pouring yourself out, and just everything that goes into writing a book, as you now know, it's a lot of fun, but it's a pain sometimes. But and now you get to go out and talk about it, and so many people get to enter your world. Mm-hmm.
And Sean, I think you really hit it on the head when you said, forget who it is. it's my hope that it not be about Haywood Robinson or about the late Noreen Johnson. It's not about how many we sell. If babies are not saved, if people's hearts aren't changed, abortion doctors who right now are performing abortions or who will be tomorrow, medical students or pre-med students who are thinking that killing babies is the right thing to do, if we don't have facility workers who are leaving and we don't see the same commitment to prayer and fasting so that facilities are closed, well, the book has not served a purpose. I don't want a Pulitzer Prize. Yes, it could make some money, but it's really not about me. The price of one innocent preborn child's life is far greater than any material gain that can be made by this book. So it's serious. It's not about me. I don't know how many years I have left, but those years have to go to some of the babies who get 0 years.
Yeah. Well, and what I want the leaders to have the experience that I had reading your book, which is they know you. I mean, you travel around. You're a friend to many leaders. They see you at the symposium. Everybody loves you, and they know your story. But now they're gonna like know the story, and it's so much more than what people expect. It's not like any other pro-life book, and a beautiful title, really. The Scalpel and the Soul shares. That's where you're going. It's a beautiful journey. It's not an easy one. I think it's going to inspire, which this really wasn't an intention, I think. We set out to do the book. Young physicians and medical students, I mean, you and Noreen really talk a lot about that and how that time in your life, the good of it, and also how negative it was in getting involved with abortions. But it's a medical ethics book in a lot of ways. So anyways, we'll get more into that. We, of course, have Steve Carlin also joining us.
Yes, I'm here.
Now get out. Okay.
No, it's great to be here, and congratulations on the book. And I'm confident that it will result in saved lives and changed hearts, and can't wait to see how the Lord brings that to fruition.
Okay, now before we get into some of this, we have some mail that has come into 40 Days for Life, and it concerns Steve Carlin. So a couple of weeks ago, we got mail of everybody telling you to buy your season tickets, your Packer tickets.
Yeah, those are great letters.
Yeah, those are great letters. So there's been some questions that I've received of, we all make fun of you, rightly so, because you haven't seen any of like the real movies of your generation, or just good movies in general in the history of our country. And so people are wondering, like, is that true, number one? And like he really hasn't seen Shawshank Redemption, but also like, what has he exactly not seen?
Okay.
So I made a list of what I believe are 20 of the greatest movies, or just well-known movies that I think you should have seen. You were born in 1983?
Correct.
Okay, so you're a year younger than me. We're 90s kids. This is a standard list. Haywood can chime in because I'm going to go some old school stuff. We're starting with The Godfather.
You're subtly telling me that before I turn 40 this year, I better have checked some boxes. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, okay. No, yes. Because here's my logic. If some people just don't like movies, or they're like, whatever, it's a form of art I don't care about, or whatever. I have nothing to do with it. You don't do that. You watch movies. You watch dumb movies. You also watch some very funny movies. So you're watching movies, but you haven't watched like the best movies, in my opinion, that would be that at your age you should have seen. So I'm just going to go through this list and see. You just tell us yes or no. The Godfather.
You spend time with your family?
Sure I do.
Good. Because a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
No.
Oh, no.
See, that's an insult to Haywood's generation.
I mean, that's probably the best movie ever produced.
And America. It is the greatest movie.
How long is it?
3 hours.
I mean, that's a long time.
Every minute is fantastic.
Okay.
That's one of the movies that like changed movies.
Gosh. And you know how much money Marlon Brando made in that movie? About $300,000
No way.
without any percentage.
Oh, Oh!
But that's a story. If you want to know more about that, there's a cigar publication that ran a major article on it. You can figure it out.
And nobody wanted Pacino.
Well, they did want him, but it was
Francis Ford Coppola
he
insisted.
wanted Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
And he convinced him. He was washed up at the time, and he talked him into it. And he had just made about $1.5 million on a movie about 7 years prior that I can't recall the title right now. But about $300, essentially for nothing.
Yeah. Well, James Caan wanted to be Michael. And they made him Sonny, which now he was Sonny his whole life, right? But they thought nobody wanted Al Pacino. He was a Broadway actor. Oh, he hadn't been in any movies, and Francis Ford Coppola just fell in love with him and said
he's one of my favorites.
And they said he's too short. He's got to become kind of this villain.
But he carries a tall gun.
Oh, he was great. Great movie. Okay, so Godfather's out. This next one may hurt. Jaws.
Untie a shark cage. You go inside the cage. Cage goes in the water. You go in the water. Shark's in the water. Our shark. Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies.
Oh, that's unbelievable! You haven't seen Jaws? How? How? I don't know. We gotta get Steve's parents in here. This is getting deep. That's unbelievable. It was just on cable all the time too. I don't see how you didn't stumble upon it. You're like, hey, this guy's getting eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Like, we're gonna need a bigger boat. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, because there was a Taco Bell parody of it in the '90s. A commercial. Remember the dog? Taco Bell dog.
You quiero Taco Bell.
I'm going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, he said that you're gonna need a bigger boat. So you knew that line. But Quinn's kind of a reference. The captain, it means nothing to you. He's on the Indianapolis.
Nope.
Goes down.
No clue.
Sharks in the water.
Complete ignorance.
I had that on my list of. I was like, he's gonna get that one.
This is like respectable. No, not even respectable. Okay.
That's brutal.
Okay. Well, 2 strikes.
I'm gonna ask producer John real quick since he's always off screen. Do you know anybody who's never seen Jaws?
Not anyone sane.
Okay, no one's sane. I don't think I know anybody.
Well, I'm here for medical purposes and psychiatric emergencies.
Yes. Well, you may have to do.
I was
some
going
work
to
on
watch
Steve.
it on the flight down here. Believe it or not, I was going to, and then I was having a hard time like hearing it with the earbuds on the plane. So
You just made that up. So you just need to go buy it.
Okay.
Go get the Blu-ray and watch it. It's so good. That's another one that just totally changed how we watch movies. Not showing the villain and that being kind of scarier, kind of mysterious. Anyways, and great score. Great music. All right. We're getting into like manhood now. Rocky.
Well, the condition of both men, but
I must break you.
None of them.
no.
Do you know who Drago is?
Is he the Russian guy?
Yeah, Rocky
Okay.
4.
I've heard of him.
It's like one of the most
from you.
pro-America movies ever made. God bless Sylvester Stallone. Okay, none of the Rockies. Well, the next one's out. First Blood.
I don't think I've heard of that one, to be honest.
You are terrible. We're not making this up. This is why I wanted Haywood here to witness this.
This is
Bad.
When did you find that this gentleman had this particular malady?
But it'd be different if he was like Doogie Howser or something, where he's a genius and he was just reading about the stars and the human anatomy, and he was just a brilliant like 12-year-old, and so he didn't have time for movies. He was he was not doing those things. Okay.
Okay. Well,
All right.
Are we got to find out what was he doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
First Blood is the first Rambo.
Okay.
Okay. This is awful. Predator.
There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man.
No.
Terminator 2.
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle.
Okay, so that's kind of a trick question, right? Because
it's not a trick question. We talked about it, and you didn't like the first Terminator, and I said you got to go for Terminator 2. It's the best action movie of all time.
Okay, I give you my word. I will check it out.
Right after Jaws, The Godfather. You're gonna stay up all night tonight. This next one, this is the guarantee you have seen it. Jurassic Park.
Now, eventually, you do plan to have dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour, right? Hello? Hello? Yes?
I really hate that man.
I think I saw part of it when I was a kid. I was like babysitting some kid who
How
liked it.
did your parents not take you to see Jurassic Park? That was the movie.
I don't know.
We were like 11.
Just bad parenting. It's not my fault.
Oh, my word. This is just a joke now. Lethal Weapon, any of them? Any of the Lethal Weapons?
Is that Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that.
Die Hard.
No.
Okay, this next one is up with Jurassic Park. Home Alone.
Oh yeah, I've seen
Okay.
that. That's what I was doing in the '90s. I
You watched Home Alone over
We got a run going on.
Okay,
here.
so we are
disappear.
1 out of 20. Shawshank Redemption.
You know, the funny thing is, on the outside, I was an honest man, straight as an arrow. I had to come to prison to be a crook.
No.
Shameful. A Few Good Men.
No.
Forrest Gump.
Yes.
Okay, 2. All right, so we got Forrest. Keep track of this. And Home Alone. Okay. Braveheart.
What will you do without freedom?
No.
And you and I have personally talked about that because I said that I was offended that you haven't seen
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah. Robert was not offended.
Robert, he doesn't count because he's biased because Mel Gibson's like killing his great-great-great-great-grandfathers. Tombstone.
Does this mean we're not friends anymore? You know, Ed, if I thought you weren't my friend, I just don't think I could bear it.
No.
You're going to like that.
Okay.
Like,
I'll make a note
here's
of that,
what
yeah.
the viewer and the listeners are thinking. These are good movies. Like, it's not like Haywood and Sean are the only ones that think The Godfather's a good movie. It's a pretty overall consensus that's the greatest movie of all time. Jaws is in the top 10, if not the top 5. So we're giving you goods. This is like recommending, hey, you got to try this new like candy bar.
Okay.
Like, you're going to enjoy it. The Patriot.
Before this war's over, I'm going to kill you.
No.
So you're not really familiar with Mel Gibson killing Brits.
I'm aware that there are those movies, but that's the extent of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Castaway.
Yes.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Wilson, the volleyball?
Yes.
Yeah.
You saw Castaway.
Yeah, it was okay.
I think that's probably his best movie. He's on screen like an hour alone. That's just like hard to act.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of him, Tom Hanks, Saving Private Ryan.
Yes.
Great. Okay. All right. Whew. Because you're not really an American if you haven't seen that.
No.
Any of the Lord of the Rings.
I saw the first one.
Okay. All right, I'll count that. That's brutal. Some of these.
What were you watching when The Godfather?
In the 90s?
What were you doing? Were you on like a national soccer team or something? Like Little League?
What time period are we talking here? Like when we were growing up and having our formational years?
So the Rockies and Rambos are the 80s, and that's the epitome of Sylvester Stallone. And
yeah,
like
but we weren't like 5 years old watching. You weren't watching them.
No.
Right?
But by the time we were old enough, they were on like cable all the time.
Okay.
Like just playing. Now my parents were buying the VHS. They liked movies, but in high school is a little shameful. Like 8th grade, okay. I guess I don't know if you saw Forrest Gump, Tombstone.
No, I spent
Jurassic Park. How did you miss Jurassic Park? That's remarkable.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question.
Do you know what it's about?
They make some dinosaurs and have a park, and then things go wrong, I think.
The thing is Jurassic World is really good with Chris Pratt.
Okay.
Those are the two best
I got to
ones.
take your word for that on these. After Terminator, my trust.
Okay, but you started with Terminator, and the whole reason I wanted you to watch Terminator is so you would know what's happening in Terminator 2. The end of the world's going to happen, and you're going to be clueless when Skynet takes over, which I think the DOJ is encouraging. Okay, let's get out of that. That's just brutal. That was I actually email us at podcast@40daysforlife.com. podcast@40daysforlife.com. Just what you're most shocked about, or movies that I'm missing, that maybe Steve has seen. You've seen Tommy Boy.
Yes.
See, that's the thing. Like, that's a great movie, but it's not like a staple of the industry.
That's up for discussion.
The industry that's up for debate.
I think we've hit the crisis here, which was 8th to 12th grade. I was watching Chris Farley, Mike Myers, and Adam Sandler, and that's about the extent of my cinematic formation.
I think the most shocking, and then we'll move on, none of the Rockies. So somehow, none of the Rockies, Jaws, Jurassic Park, even Die Hard. You haven't seen Die Hard?
It's like there's like the 5-year window where kids have to learn language, otherwise they'll never acquire language. 8th to 12th grade was my 5-year window, and I just missed the mark. I'm feral.
Yeah. See, I wanted you to be like, as a kid, I was like an astronaut for NASA, and they ran all these tests, and I got to go to the moon, and it's just like, well, that's way better. But
no, I have no alibi.
You don't have an alibi, so okay. That's amazing.
Well, let me give a shout out to all 37 of the Black Americans that may be of my genre that may have watched some of those black exploitation movies of the 70s. Who out there remembers?
Sean, you and I are about to get canceled.
Yeah, we haven't done a shout out to them in a long time on the podcast, so thank you.
How about Ron O'Neal and Superfly? How about that? Curtis Mayfield during the soundtrack. Now, I can't talk about the plot of either one. It's kind of, but there was also one by Melvin Van Peebles, Sweet Sweetback, but we can't really talk about that particular plot. But there was a whole series of unbelievable blaxploitation movies that some of which were really very, very good.
So, as a white kid in the 90s, you know what the most popular movie was?
What?
Friday.
Friday.
With Chris Tucker. Or Chris, it's Ice Cube.
Okay.
Chris Tucker. Am I getting that right?
Well, see, that's a little bit more modern for me. I was going way back.
That was like 1991.
Okay,
but when I was in high school, like 2000, that was the locker room movie. Right, that was like everybody loved it. It's
right.
Don't watch it. It's bad, but it's hysterical.
Yeah. Well, when I used to go to the movies, you could go with about 50 cents. 25 cents got you into the theater, and the other 25 cents would get you all the concessions that you needed for that movie. Can you imagine that?
We have to like sell a kidney to take all of our kids to the movies and get them popcorn, like negotiating. And I'm like the popcorn guy that you get popcorn, you don't add butter, you don't put M&Ms in it. Like it's just like it's straight. So, anyways, okay. So we mentioned early on The Scalpel and the Soul, Haywood's wonderful book. But today, especially with the context of Roe being gone, we want to kind of go through the life of an abortion doctor. But before we do that, do you think, with how divided we are as a country, with one side of our country, we got to have infanticide, and the other side becoming abortion free, are medical students now more or less willing to do an abortion than when you were in medical school?
You know, it's an interesting thing about these young people these days on almost any issue. What has happened, I think, and why they call it higher education, I don't know. But it seems like everything has been dumbed down to the point to where these young people's brains are mushed out. They're mushed out where they don't make their decisions based on logical, sound, fundamental ideas, that they have no standards that they can really stand on. And I think it has a lot to do with the social media, which changes with the wind. So their opinions change day to day, and they stay glued to these devices. So whatever latest thing down the pipe, that's what they suck up. When you look at the organizations that coordinate education on a high level, that coordinate medical schools, curriculum in our undergraduate schools and medical schools, it's so much social issues are input there. The students now, these medical students who are like third and fourth year, seem to be functioning now on almost a first and second year level, and they're seem to be occupied or preoccupied with social issues rather than medicine. So they don't really even know history. They don't understand that abortion was something that or at least legalized in this country, is something that was relatively new. And we, for millennia, for 1400 years before Christ, we had a Hippocratic Oath and a standard up until 1973 that said, no, we didn't do abortions. But if you say Hippocratic Oath, a lot of these students, they won't even know what you're talking about, because they get most of their information from social media and what they think is the right thing for themselves. So if we're going to have abortion, well, abortion will work out for me because I'm not ready to have a baby. So abortion sounds like a pretty good thing for me, and it's legal. Therefore, it's okay to have. They don't really look at, well, this is a life. It's sacred. It's created by God, and I'm an agent of God and not of the world. So they're kind of hard to talk to. They deal in so many just amorphous ideas that seem to have no substance.
We want to kind of go through and talk about, like, what was when you were in the part of your life where you were doing abortions, what was a day like? And I know historically on the podcast and in some of the talks that you've given, you've said there was sort of this process of desensitization, which really followed the see one, do one, teach one, where you would see an abortion, maybe you're uncomfortable with it right off the bat, and then you see another one, maybe not so uncomfortable, and then you're doing one, then you're teaching one, and before long, you're working as an abortion provider. And I kind of want to ask, how complete was that desensitization? Were you waking up in the morning and you're uncomfortable because instead of going to your regular practice, you're going to the abortion business, or did it just become, just another day in the life?
Well, that desensitization process is something that is incremental.
Okay.
However, you don't get a little bit of it one day, or like see one, do one, teach one, which is good for medicine. Medicine was taught in more of a discipleship model, and that's good because you not only learn the medicine, you learn the ethics, what the character of the time, and you walk this way behind this more mature physician. Well, as you become desensitized to anything that's wrong, and Sean, you've made this quite clear to me, and clearer than anyone ever has. Each step that you take into darkness, you really don't go back. It's kind of like one of those cog latches, or kind of like a lobster trap, and you just get deeper and deeper, and you don't really notice. It's kind of like the frogs in the water that you heat up, and you get comfortable there, because you've got to remember, we're dealing with spiritual things here. We're dealing with an enemy that works in your mind that makes you comfortable doing something that's wrong, that you would maybe a year earlier thought that was absolutely a horrible thing to do, but you've desensitized yourself. Now, when we talk about deeper and deeper and deeper wrong. Now, you said this best as I've heard it said. The door coming out of that into light only revolves one way. When you do see the light, you don't go back to the darkness. That door does not revolve back and forth. So, no, Steve, you don't kind of get a little bit better overnight after you get a little REM sleep, and then all of a sudden the closer you get to the abortion facility, you get dark, kind of like full moon and a werewolf. Right. It doesn't really work like that. You get just more comfortable day after day to the point where you have someone, like some of the late-term abortionists, in our country who may be in their 70s or 80s, to where that's all they really know, and that they're totally taken over and come up with some of the most bizarre things that they keep adding as services. Like, the doctor on the East Coast that I think is retired now, how he set up a whole section of memorial services for the babies that he aborted. And he would have clergy there doing memorial services. I can't imagine that. But it goes to show the power of the enemy, of the devil, to make you come up with progressively more horrific, horrible things to do to these babies. Now, we have to also remember, we focus on this word abortion, and it's become something that I'm trying to use as the harming of children is not something that's new. It's been going on for thousands of years, and we're talking about the flip-flop back and forth of it. As far as a reference, we can look at the Bible, the Old Testament, and look at how Israel flip-flopped between good and bad kings. The bad kings would say this wonderful religion of Molech and Baal, where we burn children and sacrifice children, was the state religion.
Yeah.
And then the king would change, and they'd come back to God, and it wasn't. It shows there's this battle in the heavenlies against for right and wrong that we're still in the middle of. It's just that the labels change. We call it abortion now, but we really need to recognize it's nothing more than the sacrifice of the most innocent of our society.
One of the many great things of the world that you take us into in the book is when you first see one. Because the physician. And so there's this element of respect, and we don't think about that, right? We're like, we've heard you tell the story, and he saw an abortion, then he did it, then it became, but there's all these relationships with other doctors and nurses. Did you have anything in your gut when they said, today, this is somebody you know and trust and respect, we're going to do an abortion, I need y'all to stand over there. What were the first thoughts going through your head?
Well, what you're saying is correct. It's so smooth how you do it. But there are these older faculty members and residents that are ahead of you who you respect. And in a lot of ways, you want to be like them one day. And then you have, it's abortion day or abortion half day. And so smoothly you transition from where you're doing the greatest thing you could ever do, like delivering a live preborn baby. Let me tell you, there is nothing like that. And those of you that are watching this podcast know a baby coming out of a human being mom is the most unbelievable thing you've ever seen. But then to do that on one hand, and then with this hand over here, kill a baby, it's godlike in a way. Life in this hand and death in the other. I have godlike power. You aren't thinking that, consciously, but in reality, that's what you are. You're Dr. God.
Is it kind of a rush?
It's not really a rush because you don't even know it. It's the enemy feeding the inner man to puff you up. To say, doctor attending, a faculty member is doing it. I can be like him, cool and smooth. Walk into the room. I'm here to perform your abortion, and everything is okay. And we're all living in this delusion state. And I will tell you right off, the first couple of times when you're watching this thing, it's kind of like, I called it a cerebral nausea. And that's the best way I can, where you're kind of going, wait a minute, this is a little, not quite so right. But it's amazing how quickly you get over it, because that's the way they're going. They're not even blinking. Why should I be blinking? It's just part of the practice.
So you've got, let's say Friday, for example, you're delivering a baby, or maybe you're putting a cast on a broken bone, prescribing antibiotics for a kid with an ear infection. Saturday, for example, maybe you're doing abortions all day. When you woke up that morning, the alarm goes off, you kind of like rub the sleep out of your eyes. Is there something in your disposition that's different from one day to another, or were you just kind of, maybe I'm asking the wrong question. You got that life or death sense.
Yeah, that's a good. Was there a subconscious abortion day, non-abortion day?
In a way, yes, because I don't think I really enjoy doing abortions. It's not something you enjoy. How can you really enjoy something like that? But I think you do it as one of those things that is what you feel now. You're convinced it's part of medicine. That's why they're shouting, the anti-humans. That's what I think we really need to be called them, not pro-choicers. They're the anti-human, anti-life cartel that we have. They shout abortion is medicine, and as you've said and I've said, nobody's shouting that treating diabetes is medicine.
Right.
There's no employer out there that's saying, well, I'm going to fight for for all my insurance companies to cover insulin and all these other things that have to do with cardiovascular disease. Isn't it amazing how these employers now want to make sure that abortion is part of all the medical care? Abortion is not medical care, and we've said that time and time again. Pregnancy is not a disease, but it's become a sacrosanct place where we just have to have this holy grail of the enemy, the right to kill our children. So I wake up, I'm going to Santa Ana and do abortion, but you know what's sitting in the back of your mind? I'm going to have me a check. I'm going to have some money. I'm going to be partying. I'm going to be doing this. It pays well. It's easy. And it's the funny thing about doing bad things. The enemy is always can tell you, oh, you'll get over it.
I remember on the easy part, you told me that probably 20 years ago. You said, I could teach you to do an abortion in 30 minutes,
Sure could.
And most people think it's violent. We've talked about it a lot. It's barbaric, but it's not very complicated.
It's not very complicated, but be very careful. Anyone out there, if you see a surgeon and they tell you it's going to be a simple procedure, uncomplicated, run. Every procedure can have a complication. I could teach you how to do an abortion or a DNC. I could teach you. But every procedure, whether you're doing that DNC for a miscarriage or whatever, you can perforate the uterus or whatever. So, yes, anything can become complicated in no time. Thank God that I never did have a complication. I was taught by good, really excellent instructors, one of whom was my late wife, Noreen, and I believe she was one of the most skilled gynecologists that I've ever watched, and I was able to watch her for 40 years.
Yeah, I had many people tell me what a great surgeon she was.
Oh, yeah, she was very serious, and I talk about that in the book. I don't think I ever observed her make a real error.
Wow.
She treated the tissue in the same way I think a jeweler would treat a very precious diamond. That every stitch had to be right, every incision and cut had to be right, and she would take her time and do it. And it was really something to marvel to watch somebody work with such meticulous care.
And that's so, of course, as you pointed out, it's why abortion is so inconsistent with medicine. Because you want your doctor to take this meticulous approach, and you're getting your knee replaced, or you're having a baby, or you're having heart surgery. You don't want the guy that's like, I'm usually pretty accurate. And abortion, now for sure, it's the bottom of the barrel. It's not the goal of most medical students. The guys that are bragging about being abortionists, they're all 80, like you mentioned, just Carhart, but he's out of his mind. He's the baby's a parasite. All of that, the younger guys, they're just not willing to do it. They may support abortion more, but they're not running out saying, I want to be a circuit rider and travel around to different clinics and do abortions. There's a lot of medical malpractice. There's a lot of divorce. Like something went wrong and they need the cash. You and Noreen were young. I mean, you're going to be married. You're going to be doctors. Was it just the money that you said, we're going to add this? We're going to be Mr. and Mrs. Doctor during the day and do real health care. And then at night, we're going to get a little thing on the side going.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's done for the money. I mean, if someone would have come to me, one of those faculty members or one of my fellow residents says, come join me for a free abortion clinic, a charity for the community.
Okay.
When I said, oh, I'm going to be there. Oh,
I want to serve
give
women.
me a break. Come on now. You think I'd go to the charity abortion clinic? Of course not. There is no such thing. Abortion is fueled by money. If the money variable in the abortion cartel's differential equation were removed, we would not be doing this podcast and there wouldn't be a 40 Days for Life. This is about the money. It's about cash. They don't have to file for insurance. You're dealing with a desperate customer who wants the product done. They want to get rid of it, either a desperate customer or a person who's forcing that woman to go through that, because we've talked about this before. It's not normal for a woman to want to harm their child. They aren't designed physiologically like that. That's just something that God did not design them for. So it's a business that they've gotten away with being, they don't really care about women. They want to get them out of the facility as fast as possible. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get to that facility, do as many or whatever number they had, and I'm going to get in my car and get it started, and I'm going to get the heck out of there until I have to come back again. And no, I'd never have heard of a charity or free abortion facility, and you're not going to hear about one.
So on that note, there's a talking point, of course, that abortion is a matter between a woman and her doctor. And you've kind of blown up that talking point. You said, I wasn't her doctor. It's abortion day. You walk into that room. What do you know about her? How well do you know her? Do you know her history well enough to avoid the complications that, thanks be to God, you avoided? Like, what's the relationship like? Do you know her name until you walk in the room? What do you know as you walk into that room?
Well, let me put it to you this way, Steve. Let's just say that your dinner is between you and your chef.
Okay.
But
well stated.
But I didn't tell you you're having dinner at McDonald's. All right? Now, you don't know who cooked the hamburger and you don't know who shoved it out of the window.
Sure.
Right? But you would know if you went to a fine dining restaurant. You might know who the chef is, etc. No, what we're dealing with.
I had dinner with you last night. You knew the
right.
waiter.
You knew the waiter. Well, that's the way it is with abortion. Abortion is the McDonald's of medicine. You go, you drive in. Somebody might wait on the person. Some of these guys never even go in with the lady, and they come out as fast as they can, and it's not fast food, but it's fast medicine. They're kicked out, and they've gone through the drive-through, and that's the way it is. Now, where was the doctor and all that? Well, the same place where the person was flipping the burgers. They were in the back. They come out, and they throw the meat on there, and somebody puts a bun on it. The way it works, the reality of it, is that you always have at least 2 rooms running. One room where you're doing the procedure, and the other room where they've got a woman already prepped and ready to go. You never meet these patients. They have been consented. Their money is already taken. It's the only kind of medicine where you pay for your services in advance. Everything else, we paid for our meal after we ate it last night.
Yeah.
You pay for most services after you receive that particular service, but not with abortion. They pay, they get it done, you kick them out. So when you walk in that room, sometimes you don't even tell the poor young person your name. I'm Dr. So-and-so. Maybe you sit your butt down on the stool, you get the lady in the right position, and you start using those instruments, and in 10 minutes or less, you have the procedure going, and you don't even look back at the woman. They're now cleaning up the woman. They're going to put her in a recovery room where she never really recovers, particularly psychologically. You can have other complications. I'm on the highway after my last one. Do I care that there's a complication? No. That's part of what we call the abortion distortion, that itinerant, transient doctors can come to a particular area, do abortions, cause a complication. They tell the patient, oh, well, if you have a problem, you go to the emergency room. Now, if Dr. Johnson, my late wife, if she would have done surgery, had done a hysterectomy, and sent a patient home, say 2 or 3 days after that surgery, and that patient had a complication and she was not in town or had coverage for that, that would be called by the licensing board patient abandonment. They do not charge abortionists with abandonment. That's why they're able to do their circuit riders. You know, the abortionist right there in a town just north of us in Waco referred to herself as the traveling abortionista.
Yeah.
And was proud of that title.
Okay, so we can't say that they're not real doctors because they are doctors, and you've said it. My father-in-law said it. Medicine isn't off the hook for this. You can't say, well, they're not real doctors. They are. This is a crime that medicine has done. It just seems like, so y'all are young doctors. You start moonlighting. You start getting abortions, in doing abortions. In the book, which we don't have to reveal the whole thing, but the most powerful scene, in my view, as a reader, is the conversation that Noreen has with Brad when she's pregnant. I mean, that is the scene that makes this book unlike any other pro-life book. So Noreen gets pregnant with your oldest, and she really almost casually, but she's doing it as a compliment to him because Brad is another physician. He's an abortion doctor, and she wants him to do the abortion on her. And it just shows, that whole interaction shows that doctors ultimately know this is murder and this is a bunch of garbage because he won't do it.
Right. And we're not going to run a trailer, but
no.
What we'll say, Brad is the guy that Sean is referring to, was one of Noreen's fellow residents in the OBGYN residency where she and I trained. He was also her next door neighbor. We got married on Saturday, and the way we figured it out, we knew she ovulated about 4 days after the wedding, which was totally off cycle. Noreen used to be just like clockwork, and she would experience something we call middle smirch. She would know when she would ovulate. And when that Wednesday she ovulated, she says, wait a minute, that wasn't supposed to happen, but God had it all planned out. Well, anyway, she gets pregnant, but she had said, oh, I don't want to have children. I kind of brushed it off. Well, anyway, I thought she'd change her mind. No big deal. I'm not gonna. I learned early. You don't fight a young, pretty Trinidadian lady. They're gonna win every time. So you gotta go for the long game. Well, anyway, Brad lived next door, and after Noreen got pregnant on our honeymoon, we went over to his house, to his apartment, and she said, Brad, I want you to do an abortion. And he's sitting on the couch there, and he looks up kind of in total, just awestruck disbelief, whatever you want to call it. And he says, are you kidding me? And he says, you just got married? You and Haywood are going to go into practice, blah, blah, this. I'm not going to kill your baby.
Yeah. He said that, and he's just on the couch. But this is y'all's. He's close to y'all professionally, but he's your friend.
He's my close friend.
So you're hanging out on the couch, and people can't fathom that a conversation like that would ever happen
between doctors.
Between doctors, and you literally had an abortionist defending life and saying, "I won't kill your baby."
That's right.
So that's interesting to me because we've heard from the women that we've worked with here at 40 Days for Life, a lot of women talk about how they were turned off by their abortion experience because there was sort of a condescension. The doctors were looking down upon them, judging them. And in front of a television camera, it's all, we're here to empower women. Behind closed doors, they're kind of running down the women. If they've had multiple abortions, there's some judgment there. All of that factor. To me, that seems like sort of an affirmation of that he was perhaps willing to do abortions on women that were just, the common street riffraff, but not someone who he knew, respected, had a relationship with. Is that typical?
Well, I can't say I have a lot of experience of that, because that's a very limited thing. And just want to remind our audience, Brad is not the real name. We're not going to divulge that. But I
guess
think
just
it
the general
shows
philosophy,
that,
though, the sort of mentality.
Yeah, and I think what that illustrates most of all, Steve, is that it shows how we really look at these women where we make our money on is meat, okay? But because we were friends, Brad and me and Noreen and he, that we were friends.
Yeah.
But our customers are meat. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the same procedure, but it's a class thing.
They're not
so
just
we look
dehumanizing
down.
the babies.
Yeah, we look down. Oh, that's just a way to make money. But kill your baby?
But Noreen did a great job writing that chapter, because she's accusing herself and showing this great irony of her friend actually being a friend and saying, "I'm not doing an abortion on you, Noreen. Are you crazy?" And
I love you too much.
I love you too much. And she said she was so stuck on the medical part. She's like, "But you're the best one to do it. I trust you to do it." Kind of like paying him a compliment. I think it shows just because you're the guy that you meet. We had Jim Olson on the podcast a couple weeks ago, who you know well. And Jim's the guy that you're hanging out, and then he walks off, and you go, "Hey, that guy used to be a spy." And everybody's like, "Get out of here, man. That guy's like a librarian, or he teaches English," And you're the same with former work. You hang out with Haywood, and then you tell somebody he used to do abortions, and they're like, "You're crazy." That scene, because I didn't know y'all then, just shows the world y'all were in. I mean, it's just an absurd. You couldn't even imagine this conversation would happen anywhere, and it's unfolding really quite naturally. Of the doctor saying, "I'm your friend. I'm not going to do that." It has a great ending, by the way. We can share that since we've shared the bad stuff. But the abortion doesn't take place, and then he serves as the godfather. Did I remember that right?
He's the godfather of that child, and it turns out that his wife was one of Noreen's bridesmaids in the wedding.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They ended up married. So that I wanted to highlight that because physicians these days, no one refutes that life begins at conception or that abortion kills a baby. You said something earlier where you saw the first abortion and you're like, "Oh, this is bad." And then you just get over it. And I think that's what physicians and the abortion industry and many of their supporters have done. They know that abortion kills a baby. You can't live with your head in the sand. You can't have ultrasounds and all these things that we have and say, "No, it's just a blob." The blob argument, they don't even use anymore. We pointed that out in What to Say When. What they have done is they are at peace with the death of the baby. And that's where we're getting infanticide. That's where we're getting these insane people saying we're going to deny health care to a baby who survives an abortion. But they're doing what you're saying, what every abortion doctor has to do. Because the abortion doctor can't be deceived. He's doing it, right? I mean, he knows. He sees abortion more than anybody. He doesn't convert. They become at peace with it. But it's a false peace.
It's a false peace because deep inside, you can't deny that you're created by God. And inside, there's always going to be that box, which only God can fill. And that whether it's 2 or 3 in the morning, one day, or whether it's at a Christian music concert, one day God, hopefully, and I'm thankful that it happened to me, is going to open that box up, and His grace is going to pop out, and your life is going to be changed. Unfortunately, there are some people who that won't happen to within their life, and their eternal disposition is not good. I still have hope for that abortionist who's been doing abortions for decades upon decades, because there's always hope with the Lord.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons you and Dr. Tony Levantino and so many former workers, we don't believe in violence. What if somebody would have shot you?
Yeah, and then I didn't get, and wasn't able to experience the grace and the rest of the story.
And the people who do that are playing God. They're snatching the opportunity of conversion from you. Instead of appearing to St. Paul and knocking him off his horse, they're just picking him off with a shotgun. And it's no more Paul or no more Saul. So it really is it's a beautiful witness. The book is so moving. It's uplifting. It's educational. I learned a lot, and I've been doing this, as you know, for 20 years or something. And we talk about abortion a lot, but I learned a lot from your book, especially the culture of physicians. You and Noreen growing together as doctors and then raising your kids and then having this unbelievable conversion, coming to Texas, Texas was made for you to live here. That's for sure. We had to get you out of Southern California, but it's really a story of hope. And, in a post-Roe America, I expect more workers to have a change of heart. I don't think they bow to the altar of Kavanaugh or Alito, but I think they're going to think about it. Like, hey, when I got into this, I didn't even think about the legality. I thought, of course, it's acceptable. The Supreme Court says that. It's legal. There's no controversy here. And then all of a sudden, that's just overturned or even called into question by half the country. And they're going to rethink why they got involved. I've heard from a lot of women who have had an abortion who didn't really rethink it until Roe was overturned, and they thought, I only did it because it was legal and I thought it was okay. And now they're just saying it's illegal and not okay? Like, where does that leave me in the mix?
Yeah. Well, it's my hope that some of the groups of people that are targeted by the anti-life, anti-humans cartel, we've talked a bit about black genocide and how we can go to the East Coast and look at areas where the abortion rate, the babies that are killed by doctors, is a higher number than those that are born alive, and how Margaret Sanger's eugenics has brought that about. I would hope that those black lives would matter.
Right.
And that they can at least be recognized. I can't count on the liberal media to bring that out, but that God would create an opening and revival or whatever, or the touching of hearts within a country. We have a whole class of people of Down syndrome. You can think of them as a race. The only difference in a Downs person is they have an extra chromosome, but only 10% of them are allowed to live by the medical profession. The medical profession commits genocide on 90% of Down's babies. We've got to deal with that reality. But nobody likes to talk about the term fetophobe or fetophobia. Nobody uses the term Downzophobe or Downsophobia. But we use it with every other subgroup or ideology. But why not them? They're innocent. The only thing is they have either an extra chromosome, they're the wrong race, or whatever. So I think there's going to be a reckoning. Unfortunately, medicine has betrayed the public trust by becoming the executioners for this Roe v. Wade. And even though Roe v. Wade's overturned, we're still losing more than 1,000 babies a day. Mm-hmm. Let's deal with that reality. And medicine is signed on as the executioners. We are going to have to make a decision. Are we going to continue this genocide of people groups and just being anti-human, anti-life? It's got to stop.
It's got to stop, and this book will help. This book will help. I can't encourage you enough to get it. It is The Scalpel and the Soul. Pre-order it. Pre-order it directly from 40 Days for Life. Help support our ministry. You'll also get a signed copy from Dr. Haywood Robinson. He will sign it. So that it will be a hardback edition. If you go to 40daysforlife.com fordaysforlife.com. Go to our store. We have a whole website dedicated to the Scalpel and the Soul webpage, so you'll see the link on there. But go. We also have a sample chapter online if you want to read that. But pre-order, and if you pre-order from us, you can pre-order from Amazon, but it's better to pre-order from us. You may get your book early. So there we go, a little bonus. Just a beautiful story, and I can't thank Haywood enough for writing it and for doing it well, doing it justice. As you just said, you want this to give a voice to the unborn, a voice to the marginalized, a voice to these babies who don't get to live one day on Earth, and it does just that. So we're very excited. June 20th is the release date to celebrate the overturning of Roe versus Wade, the 1-year anniversary of Dobbs, which is on June the 24th. So a great week to be ordering a wonderful pro-life book, and this is a book you can't refute.
If they turn it into a movie, I promise you I'll watch it.
So Morgan Freeman obviously would play Haywood. There's two Haywoods, because there's young Haywood and then there's...
Well, Denzel Washington?
Denzel.
Hey, there we go.
That would be good. But Steve's going to be watching Morgan Freeman on screen, and he's going to be like, who's that actor? He's kind of good. I've never heard of him. Has he been in anything else?
Thank you, Mr.
Red. Name's Red.
Red. Why do they call you that?
Maybe it's because I'm Irish.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So yes, for you, the viewer, the listener, please go pre-order Scalpel and the Soul. For Steve, for the love of all that's sacred, go watch Jurassic Park and Jaws and Godfather and get your dignity back. Please rate, review, and share this podcast. Give your comments also on the comments section. We have a link to the book page to pre-order your book on the YouTube page. So be sure to click on that. And we will see you next time. God bless you.